Hey guys, on this episode, we're going to be talking about all the details from, hey, I love this house, let's put in an offer, to we're under contract. We're going to go through all of it, and just stay tuned. It's going to be great.
Cool deal. Hey guys, welcome to The Buzz, Coffee and Real Estate. Today, we are going to be talking about signing a contract on your dream home. This will be step 3 within the buyer's guide. And kind of recap, first video was, what do I need to do before I actually go start seeing houses? Second one is, now that I'm at a house, what am I doing? How am I checking the house out? Mm-hmm. And then in this one, we're going to be talking about the contract.
Okay.
How do we get under contract on a house? What do we need to do? What's the steps to get to there?
Gotcha. So we've started in the driveway. We've looked at the inside, the outside. Baby, I think this is the one.
That's right.
Let's make an offer on it. So if we're starting there, there's several details that we need to have in place that really we set in place in episode 1.
That's right.
But we need to go back and revisit those to make sure that we're still good to, which is pre-approval letter.
That's right.
Touching base with the lender,
yep,
because we do have a shifting market of interest rates. And so it really, we want to make sure that that's still on track, because the payment range that the lender gave, let's say 30, 60, 90 days ago,
yep,
could have been affected.
Yep.
And then in the off chance that you're making a cash offer on a house, which does happen, then we're going to need to see proof of funds. And that could be as simple as a screenshot of your bank account with the account number marked through.
That's right.
And so we need to be able to show the seller we can afford the offer that we're making on this house.
That's right.
Yep. So that's really the initial step. We as the realtors are going to be touching base with your lender.
Yep.
Hey, we're putting in an offer today. We just want to make sure we're good to go. Yeah, we're good to go. We've got all of our documents and paperwork. So what would you say kind of in most important, working your way down towards less important for the details of actually writing the contract?
Sure. So, I mean, your first thing is always going to be sales price. How much are you paying for the
That's
house?
Obvious.
In this market that has kind of shifted some, we're seeing where it used to be everything was over list price. Mm-hmm. Now we're seeing things at and a below
kind
list
of a blend.
Price. There's depending on how they, how they list it.
Yeah.
So I would say list prices first,
okay,
sales prices first.
Okay.
Then you're going to have your due diligence.
Okay.
Those two things are probably the most important to a seller.
Gotcha.
Because money is always the winning factor with a seller.
Absolutely.
So how much are they going to make off the house?
Yep.
And then how much are you putting up front to keep me in the game? So
gotcha.
I got, let's say you got a $500 due diligence. A buyer's more likely to walk away
right,
with a 500 DD. Hey, the house is collapsing in the foundation.
Yep.
I'm walking away. Right.
Yep.
If they got $10,000 in the gap, then it's like, ooh,
there's a lot of skin in the game.
A lot of skin in the game.
They're
they
probably
could
going
lose.
to stick around.
That's
because
right.
due diligence, and this is unique. It's not every single state
That's
that is
right.
like this, but North Carolina is
Carolina.
a due diligence state. It is a fee for the seller to take the house temporarily off the market for 2 to 3 weeks, maybe sometimes even 4 weeks, depending on what all needs to be done, so that you have the opportunity to do your due diligence. Mm-hmm. And that could be inspections, appraisal. We're going to talk about that in the next episode, really dive into it. But that money is at risk from day one for any reason.
Yep.
So let's say you get in and there's a $80,000 foundation issue, and you risked $10,000 on the line, and you come to them and you say, look, there's an $80,000 issue. They can say no, and that money's at risk, which is really scary.
Yeah.
However, on the buyer advantage end, if you put, let's say it's a more realistic amount, we're looking DDs of $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 maybe.
Yeah.
Let's say a week from now, you're under contract on this house, you find a house you like better, or that better fits your needs, that wasn't on the market, and it just hit the market. Oh my gosh, this is actually our dream home. This was going to be kind of settling. This is actually our dream home. Well, for that due diligence fee, you wipe your hands and walk away. You don't have to give any explanation.
Yep.
You have the freedom to just walk away anytime during that season.
That's right.
Because a due diligence period is a certain amount of time, and it's listed on the contract as at 5 p.m. on this date is when that due diligence period is up.
Yep.
So you're saying sale price kind of top priority.
Yep.
Obviously, it makes sense. Am I offering list price? Am I going over list price? Am I going under list price? Mm-hmm. And then that initial skin in the game is kind of like that's the second biggest priority.
Yep, yep. And then I would say for most, like if you're in a competitive situation, lender type so what kind of loan am I getting?
Okay.
It's going to be big.
Okay.
Because if you're, and I say that like we're in multiple offers, you've got a cash offer, you got a conventional offer, you got a VA, you got an FHA.
Yep.
Cash is always going to win.
Cash is king.
Conventional second. The VA and FHA are kind of in their own bucket,
Okay.
like together. And then you got USDA, which is also, so any of the government loans have stipulations. They've got regulations that you have to meet.
More hoops to jump through.
More hoops to jump through.
More risk that something could go wrong.
Totally. Okay. And so, like, for instance, one of their biggest qualms is peeling paint. So if you go into a house,
which is hilarious,
if it's peeling paint, they want it fixed,
especially on the exterior.
On the exterior, interior, all of it.
Yep.
They're very stickler about it.
It's got to be done before closing.
It has to be done before closing. Yep. They will hold your loan up, and they will hold the whole process up on peeling paint. So that's one reason. Now, there are other things that come up and stuff like that.
I've seen rails on porches.
That's right.
Different things like that.
Safety.
So, yep. So what you're saying is the cleanest offer, the one that stands the best chance of going through, cash first, because there's just not a lot that can go wrong.
That's right. There's no appraisal. There's no, they could do nothing. Just pay cash for it. Be done.
And then conventional after that, which requires a higher down payment. And of course, you're working with your lender. 5% is kind of the rule.
Yep.
But occasionally there's exceptions to that. 5% typical on conventional, which is why a lot of people don't do it.
Yep.
But it gives the cleanest offer because a conventional loan really doesn't care about any of those little nitpicky items.
Yep. It'd have to be like the house is falling completely apart and it's obvious.
Right. So that's the next cleanest. And then we're talking the letter loans, all the government-backed stuff, and they're just going to have extra hoops, extra things that can go wrong.
And I'll say this. I mean, it's not always the case, but sometimes if you're in an FHA loan versus conventional, your stance is weaker. Okay. So like if I'm conventional, I got 5% down. I may have more than that down.
That means I've taken good care of my money, and if I have a problem during the due diligence period, I probably have enough funds to negotiate a conclusion.
That's right. Okay. Whereas in FHA, you have a lower down payment, you have lesser fees, higher,
and USDA is even more so.
Exactly,
it's 100%.
100%. So there's some risk involved from just a trust perspective.
Sure.
Like how good of a buyer am I taking on? And so that's one reason why I think that as a listing agent, that's what I look at. Is I really want the cleanest offer. I want cash first, then I'm gonna look at conventional. And then if I don't have those two things, and then now I'm looking at other offers, then I'm gonna look at these other options, and I'm gonna kind of weigh out like, well, is this person putting anything down? Are they not putting anything down? How much skin do they have in the game? So forth. So I think it's big.
Well, and you can sometimes get around that if you have one of those FHA, USDA going in a higher sale price. Hey, there's this sale price, it's conventional or it's cash, but there's this sale price, I'm gonna take a little more risk maybe on the lending, but the reward is higher. And so that's something else of course you gotta make sure you qualify up to that.
That's right.
But that's something that can certainly be done. So loan type, sale price, due diligence, kind of the top three. Then we work down to some other details. One would be closing date. So this could be big for a seller.
It can be huge.
Sometimes you got people that want to close more slowly because they got to turn around and find the next place.
That's right.
And so they'll say, ooh, I don't want to close in 30 days. Can you close in 60 days? So your flexibility on how fast or slow you can close, that's going to be attractive.
That's right.
As well as something like seller concessions.
Hey,
are you asking for the seller to pay a certain amount towards your closing costs? Are you asking for them to leave things in the home like appliances? Are you asking for a third-party company to come in and give a warranty on, say, the heating and air system or something like that? All those things. It's not that you can't present an offer. It's just if you're competing with other people.
That's right.
The more you muddy the waters, the less likely that your offer is going to go through because it just makes it more complicated. Something that's just clean. I'll close whenever you want. It's conventional or it's cash. It's a nice competitive sale price. That just feels simple to a seller and to a listing agent. So
totally. So I would say, you've got the closing date and then your due diligence period.
Okay.
So how much risk is involved? You got a time frame of risk. So are we extending this out, 3 weeks? Or are we extending this into a week?
Because really, the seller doesn't feel like it's a sure thing until after that due diligence period ends. So the shorter the due diligence period kind of crunches the buyer, but it's going to make the offer look that much more attractive as well.
That's right. And then you also have earnest money, which is kind of a duel between those two. So like if I have a due diligence period, my money up front fee is already paid out. But if I cross the line of due diligence then I now have money at risk for earnest.
Okay, so what we're saying is let's take a time frame. I'm offering $225 for the house. I have a 3-week due diligence. I'm willing to put $2,000 down for my due diligence. So for 3 weeks, if I back out for any reason, repairs, appraisal, I lose my job, I found another house, whatever, I lose that $2,000.
Yep.
After that mark, and it's a hard 5 p.m., folks. I mean, it's written into the contract.
Yep.
After at 5:01 on that date, then I not only have due diligence, I have earnest money at risk too. Let's say that's an additional $2,000. So you really want to have all of your investigative procedures done by that point, because now if I back out here, the seller's already packed their boxes, they've paid their moving company, you know, they're a few days from closing, and now not only do I lose this $2,000, I lose this $2,000 as well.
Yep.
So really keeps an incentive for the buyer to roll through their investigative process, make sure they're good with the house, because when they hit that phase 2, you don't want to lose both of those.
No.
That's really the only point at that is like something catastrophic happened.
That's right.
Family change, job change. You know, we're pretty much coasting to the finish line when we get done with that due diligence period.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I would say that those are kind of, you know, somewhat tied together. You got earnest, you got your due diligence time frame, and then you've got your settlement date.
Yep.
And settlement date, like we said, that could be pivotal with buying the new home or, you know, whatever they're asking for. And sometimes you have sellers who want to do like a rent back or, you know, different options. So
Yeah, you could have little wrinkles in it for sure.
Yeah. So there can be a lot of things that kind of tie in there, but.
So a good agent is going to counsel you, depending on how you're structuring your offer, what the speed of the offer is. They're going to say, hey, let's go ahead and send what's called a verbal offer, which could be actual physical verbal of calling the listing agent on the phone.
Yep.
It could be sending a text. Hey, here's the breakdown of what we're offering. Sometimes that's the smartest way to go. It's just a case-by-case basis. Sometimes it's more smart to go ahead and roll through the contract, get everything signed. We love e-signatures.
Yep.
E-signatures are wonderful. It used to be that we had couriers running all over the place. Hey, sign this document. Hey, sign this document. And now almost everybody has worked with a DocuSign, a dot loop, one of these large programs that give you all the security of a legal signature.
That's right.
But as long as the agent has your email address, and it's got to be a different email address for each buyer. Like let's say it's a husband and wife buying a home. It's got to be an email address for each one of them. And then they're going to click through those documents, sign, initial, sign, date, initial, sign. It automatically shoots back to us. We can very quickly maneuver and negotiate a contract instead of, okay, well, I can sign tomorrow after work. So we'll do wet signatures where you're actually sitting down and signing, but it really works better for everybody to be able to do e-signatures.
Oh, totally. I would say you probably do more wet signatures on listings than you do on buyers. Just because you've got some things they're filling out. And
that makes sense that you're sitting down at their table, you know, all of that. So here's a question I have for you. We're going back and forth. I submit an offer to buy a house. What can the seller do? Are they just going to say yes or no, or what are they going to do?
Sure, yeah. So offer has been signed, it's ready, all the things. We're going to send that over to the agent.
With a pre-approval letter.
With the pre-approval letter, with all the signed disclosures and the contract.
Okay.
They're going to then preview that, talk with the seller. The seller's going to, in some cases, maybe he's going to send you a counter offer.
Okay.
Sometimes they're going to accept the offer. Sometimes it's in multiple offers, and so they may, you know, pull a highest and best, or hey, we need this or this or that. And so those are kind of your three caveats, right? Acceptance, counter, no.
Okay.
What are we doing?
Okay. So now let's say they counter. I offer $225. Let's say there's a list price of $235. I've offered $225. They come back to me at $230.
Yep.
Well, in the meantime, I just saw another house hit. It hit my email. But am I locked into this one, or can I go look at that one?
No. So just because you've signed the contract does not make it executed. It's only executed after seller signs your official contract.
So, but they've come back to me with a counter. So does that mean that my initial, like, let's take an example. I offer $225. Okay. They come back at $230. I say, I don't like that. I think I'm gonna go look at this one. And then all of a sudden they send me back the signed contract at $225, and they're like, oh no, you're stuck with us. We were just playing around, but we're gonna go ahead and sign your contract.
So that contract, if it's been sent over to them and they counter, then it is no longer valid.
Okay, so you're not locked into even those signatures that you signed.
Nope, because they have then said, Because by doing a counter, you have said, I don't accept your offer.
Okay.
So you verbally told us, we don't accept your offer
Okay.
by doing a counter.
Okay.
And then they're sending a new set of rules.
So I'm not legally obligated.
That's right.
As long as they have countered my offer.
Yep.
So that gives me the flexibility to either counter their counter.
Yep.
Or go keep shopping.
That's right. The other thing is there is a document in our files that you can send to cancel a contract or to say you have rejected our offer and therefore now are countering. So there is a document for that just so that you can have something clear. And if it's a sketchier situation or something where you don't feel terribly comfortable, then you can definitely use that doc.
And an agent navigates that all the time.
That's
so
right.
Again, talk to your agent, make sure that they're comfortable, they're navigating all of that. There's also offer deadline doc where you can say, hey, we're making this offer of $225. It's good for the next 8 hours. You got to make a decision in 8 hours.
That's right.
Or we're going to keep shopping. So there's all those little adjustments that can be made. A good agent will have navigated all that. They're going to have structured it. You're always balancing protecting your own interests and making your offer look attractive to the seller.
Right.
It's got to be that balance. Otherwise, the seller's just like, no, I'm not going to take that. But you want to make sure that things are fitting in your budget with your time frame, something that will work for your needs.
That's right.
So, okay, so we've talked through kind of the details of that. So just to clarify, when are you under contract?
Right. So officially, you're under contract when you have an executed contract, which means seller has signed, buyer has signed. Now, both parties have been told. And that's by email, snail mail, it don't matter. If I send you that offer back, as if I'm let's say I'm the listing agent, you're the buyer, you send me a contract, I receive it, my seller sign it, I email it back to you, we're officially under contract.
Now, no money has passed, no checks have gone back and forth.
Money's not where contract is under contract. It is now, once the due diligence has been given, it just solidifies things, but it's not like, once the signatures are signed, that contract is now
and it's been communicated back.
That's right.
They can't just sign it and keep it in secret.
That's right. It's got to be signed and communicated to be official. And then most of the time, I mean, in the olden days, and the way the contracts are actually written, it actually says that the due diligence will be delivered at the same time of the contract. However, because we do everything electronically now, it's kind of hard to send a check electronically.
Sure.
So what happens is we tend to get that check to them that day, if possible. If it's a later signing, then it may be the next morning. A lot of agents will not change it to pending status till they get that due diligence check. Or they'll put it in the listing agreement. Hey, we're signing. We've got signatures waiting on DD check or something to communicate that to everybody
Because
else.
you have a certain deadline.
That's
I mean,
right.
you need to have your checks ready. You need to have the money that you're putting towards due diligence and earnest money in a checking account with checks available. Now, here's a question. Like Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, some of these things are starting to get pretty big.
Yeah.
And have you seen much of that enter the real estate realm? Do you think it will enter the real estate realm?
I definitely think it will.
Okay.
I have already seen sometimes where it's happened. It wasn't with due diligence because it's a little bit more sticky with that, especially if there's a lender involved. They like a paper trail.
Okay.
And so not having something that like is, here's my check kind of thing. A lot more they're leaning towards wires and stuff like that. I mean, it's trackable. It's traceable.
Yeah.
It's just there's certain ones that trace better than others, and so they have preference. But I have had lenders that said we can do this like in a special situation, but it's kind of frowned upon right now because it's not 100% like that's what they want.
But you got to think, all of those companies didn't exist 7 or 8, 9 years ago. So I totally, and I agree with you. I think that really in the next 3 years, we probably see that become normal.
I think it'll be added to the contract. It'll say, like right now it just says cash, check, money order, so forth. I think it'll add in electronic funds or something, and then an app or whatever.
Yeah, and it's just you're just going to document it like you document anything else. So it's coming. We have not seen it a lot yet in our market, but I agree with you. I think it's going to be there.
Yeah.
So, all right. So basically, we've gone through all of the priorities of presenting the offer, how to structure the offer. Again, we could jump into. Let's take a quick example before we wrap it up. So let's say that give me like an example of an offer that maybe looks strong in a couple of categories, but maybe is weak in some other categories.
Sure. So let's say I've got $10,000 over the asking price on my contract.
That sounds good.
It already sounds really good.
Yep.
I've got $2,000 or $3,000 in due diligence.
Pretty decent. Yep.
Okay. but now I have a 60-day close.
Okay.
And or I have I've got a USDA loan.
Okay.
And we're in this scenario, we have to be in a place where there's multiple offers on the table for it to be competitive.
Sure.
Then it becomes more of a problem. If I'm the only offer on the table, I'm the only offer on the table, and then they're kind of at our mercy of negotiating.
A seller can drag their feet for half day talking about it. Obviously, it's a big decision. But you should never have a seller that has received your offer, it's 2, 3, 4 days later and they've not responded to you. That's not okay. A good agent pushes for, hey, we need an answer in a reasonable period of time, which is typically a couple of hours to maybe 10, 12 hours. If it's presented in the evening, they might need to talk about it. We'll get back to you tomorrow morning, something like that.
Legally, we have to present the offers within a time frame to the seller. Now, does the seller have to respond in that time frame? No, but we have to present.
Absolutely. There's nothing legally binding there, but as far as don't keep me on the hook for days and days, and that's why a lot of people will present an offer deadline. Or even if it's not an official legal offer deadline, it will be an unofficial, hey, we need to rescind our contract. It's been 24 hours. You guys have not responded to us.
That's right.
We're canceling that offer. We're going to keep shopping because you guys are not responsive.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a pivotal piece. But I would say that's your thing. Like I said, I can have if I have a weak part of my offer, then I need to encourage something in another.
Compensate.
That's right.
Another way.
Like I'm going to give you more money up front, or I'm going to give you a higher due D, or those two elements are the only thing that's going to strengthen weaker spots.
Gotcha.
Or even adding earnest money will help. Because at least it ties some time frame in. Without an earnest money, their due diligence time frame really is null and void.
Because you could have a let's say $3,000 due diligence and a zero earnest money. In which case
I've now got a total settlement date.
The risk doesn't really change throughout the process. It's $3,000 on day one. It's $3,000 10 minutes before closing.
That's right.
So it is nice to have kind of an escalation there. As a seller, that's what a seller's looking for. Hey, it's okay. I don't mind risking this much, but then at the last minute, I want to be risking this much.
That's right.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we could have certain things that need to be compensated.
Yep.
I would like to add a very important note, and this is a shout out to Josh's wife, Emily, because this macchiato is awesome, and that fancy coffee machine that you guys got that all of a sudden makes up these gourmet drinks is really nice. So this was not a coffee. This was the Jones Coffee Shop. And it's really, really good. So anyway, I think that pretty much does it on this episode. You got anything else?
One thing I know a lot of people ask, this is kind of like final tip.
Okay.
Due diligence money does not have to be presented with the offer.
Okay.
So a lot of times there's this, and I've had this with buyers where they think, oh, well, I have to give them a check for $2,000 with that check or with that contract.
With the contract.
And so then they think, well, if I send the contract, I have to send the check, and now I'm tied in with this. Yep. It's not that way. It's I sign the contract, I send it to him until we have a executed contract. Okay. That's when the money's
That's good
due.
to clarify. It's good to clarify. And the due diligence check is typically made to the sellers in their name. They're going to deposit it, spend it, do whatever they want.
Yep.
If you go ahead and close, you get it back
as a credit.
Just like you get the earnest money deposit back as a credit towards your closing costs, down payment, etc. So that some people get confused with that too. Due diligence check is made to the sellers. The earnest money check is made out to the escrow agent, which is typically in North Carolina, closing attorney that's going to hold that money and then distribute it at the proper time. So anyway, the agent will walk you through that. They're going to give you exactly who to make the checks out to, how much to make them out to. But really, it's just you need a really good agent navigating this because there are a lot of parts and pieces that are moving on it. And you need somebody that knows what they're talking about that can say, here's how we're going to structure it uniquely this time to make sure that it's attractive, but it also protects you.
That's right.
Really is kind of a complicated situation, and we want to make sure it's set right, because if it's not, we're talking thousands of dollars at risk here.
That's right.
Yep.
So, well, guys, leave us a comment if you have questions about any of the material we talked about. Also, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that we're getting our notifications every time a video hits. We are now posting these directly to Facebook and to YouTube, and we may even do it to Instagram soon. So share this video with somebody, leave us some comments, interact with us. We want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, and then stay tuned, because the next step is going to be, I'm under contract. What in the world do I do now?
That's right.
We're going to walk through that, explain that whole process, and it's going to be really good.
Yeah. So we'll see you guys in the next video.
All right.